Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. I'm loving these shorts and t-shirt weather here in the UK. Man, I wish it could be like this every single day. But what's it like where you listen in the world? Why not tweet me a pic of where you listen and what the current weather situation is? I'd love to see that. But on with today's show. This year, there is no escaping the word experiences. In particular, digital experiences. And this is where the usual suspects are all trying to lock businesses into one ecosystem as everyone flocks towards the digital transformation. But I recently came across a company called Acquia, and they're a digital experience company helping brands create and manage all the ways that customers interact with them, from websites, mobile sites, chatbots, push notifications, apps, and much, much more. And its roster includes major global brands such as Princess Cruises, Xerox and Wilson Sporting Goods, to name but a few. Now today's guest, he joined the team just a few months ago, bringing 25 years of tech experience from notable companies such as Hewlett Packard. So I invited him on the show today to learn more about how brands are reaching customers in a digital age, how they will in the future, the role of voice-enabled tech, and also why consolidation moves by big players such as Adobe through their recent acquisition of Magento could actually be bad for business. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to Boston so we can speak with Mike Sullivan, the CEO of Acquia. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Sure. Thanks, Neil. I'm Mike Sullivan. I'm the CEO of Acquia. We are a company that's headquartered in Boston, but we have a presence around the world. Some people call us a startup, but we're really have been in business for 10 years and have reached a pretty good critical mass. I've only been the CEO for 6 months, and so the company is a really excited company. I feel honored to be part of a company because it's achieved so much, and we're in the digital experience space, and it's a really, really exciting time to be in that space. So that's who I am. I'm based in Boston and born and raised there.
Fantastic. Now, when I was researching you guys, like you say, I quickly found that you're in the digital experience space and you help brands create and manage all the ways that customers interact with them, from websites, mobile sites to chatbots, push notifications, apps, and much more. And your roster includes global brands such as Princess Cruises, Xerox, and Wilson Sporting Goods. But can you set the scene and tell the listeners about what problems you solve for your customers, and also what makes you different from all the other solutions out there?
Absolutely, yeah. It's a really interesting space and an interesting time to be in the digital experience world. If we talked about this space just a few years ago, we'd probably be talking about websites. Yeah. But today, everybody probably realizes that they're engaging digital experience in many different ways. There's a lot of new channels. You mentioned some of them, chatbots, could be Alexa and voice activation or Siri. And there's now virtual reality is kind of a cutting edge way that companies are engaging. And of course, you still have mobile and all the social media outlets that are growing as well. And there's many, many more. But the channels are getting more interesting. We help companies build experiences that use all those channels. Things that companies want to do today is have very personal interactions with their customers or their constituents that they're trying to engage through these experiences. So creating personalized experiences is critical. We help companies build those experiences. We help them operate them because these have to be run, in the cloud where they're accessible. And then ultimately, there's a lot of effort that companies put into continuously optimizing those experiences with their companies. So hopefully that helps.
So when we talk about digital experiences, one of the companies I often think about straight away is Adobe, who are a big player in the digital experience space. But I think it's so important to raise the pitfalls of trapping your organization into a single vendor ecosystem. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's a great question, and I think one that's particularly relevant for a company like Acquia because we were born out of the open source movement. And so if you're familiar with open source software, it's all about, it's essentially a free platform that companies use we're very closely tied to the Drupal platform, which is actually the largest open source community in the world. It's a very community-oriented, community contributors build this software platform. We make it commercially useful for companies, and we provide the products and services that help companies support and add a variety of other technologies to make that platform successful. But it's what we provide to our customers is an open way to build these experiences, and it's all about freedom, being able to connect to other systems in your organization and enterprise. And if you look at like a company like Adobe, who is often considered the market leader in the space, although you could segment that a lot of ways, they have a full suite of products, and I really like the way that we compare to them because they're the big corporate company that's selling proprietary software and trying to lock you into their suite. And we love the path that we're taking, which is to provide an open platform that you can connect to lots of other different integrated systems throughout an enterprise, and you can choose best of breed and have the freedom to innovate the way that you want. So interesting change, but the system is the market is very, very fragmented for digital experience solutions. So we like our positioning there.
Now, Mike, you mentioned at the beginning of the show that you're 6 months into the role at the moment, but you also have 25 years of tech experience from notable big companies such as Hewlett Packard. So can I ask a little bit more about your backstory and what drives you today?
Sure. Well, I was a software developer by trade. I started my career as a techie, but like a lot of techies, I really gravitated towards working with customers, and so I founded my own company in Boston called Steel Point Technologies in the 90s, which turned out to be a successful enterprise. And I've really had the good fortune of being involved with a number of startups and large companies, and I feel very lucky that I was able to experience M&A activity, growth in fast markets, and I did end up at Hewlett Packard most recently, and I was a part of the team that spun out the software business from HP and turned it into the 7th largest software company in the world today. And it was shortly after we did that I took on this role at Acquia, which I'm really excited about.
So since joining Acquia, what have been your greatest successes? I know it's early days yet, and also what are your immediate priorities for the rest of the year?
Yeah, I think, when you're a new CEO, the first thing you want to do is understand the market opportunity. Where do you win? Where are your opportunities to expand? And I think we've done a really good job, and that really solidified my excitement about the company because it's such a great market with so much opportunity, and we have such a good platform to expand. So I've been focused on creating a strategy to go attack that. And what came out of that strategy was a realization that we needed to aggressively pursue expansion, and especially in the area of innovation. So we've actually allocated 90% increase in R&D investments. We're hiring aggressively. We're expanding in Europe and Asia Pacific. And that's really the key parts of our strategy that we've outlined and we're executing on now.
So here in 2018, how are you helping brands reach those customers? And in our immediate future, the role of voice-enabled tech seems inevitable. So how do you see that tech evolving, and what are you doing to keep pace with that shift too?
Yeah, it's a really good question because, you mentioned how do you help brands reach customers, and you mentioned voice activation, and it really is it's about new engagement methods, and voice activation is maybe one of the hottest and fastest moving areas. And we've actually just released a new part of our software, a module that allows you to quickly and easily develop voice activated engagement solutions. So that's something that we just announced some success stories on online, and we issued some press releases for some really interesting projects that we did there. You can find those on our website. But, companies are trying to create personal experiences, and that's how we're helping them reach their customers. Everybody wants to be able to engage their customers in in a very, very personalized way. So that you see a lot of tech investment going into that in this space.
So are there any other emerging technologies that you find exciting that you also see being influential in the way brands reach those customers?
Yeah, I would say this industry is at kind of an inflection point where there's a lot of different technologies that are coming together. So you see machine learning and artificial intelligence affecting the way that you segment audiences and decide what to serve up to users that's useful content. I think we've talked about the way that you engage through channels. There is a concept called the customer journey, which is a very hot buzzword in the industry today, where you track a journey that a customer goes on, and there's lots of different examples of what a journey might be, like onboarding a customer or selling, or it could be a support experience. But there's a lot of companies, including Acquia, and we really believe we're way out in front of this, that are investing in helping companies capture and deliver on the promise of customer journeys.
So do you think that consolidation moves by major big players such as Adobe and their recent acquisition of Magento, and I think there was Microsoft and GitHub recently, do you think that's good or bad for business ultimately?
Well, I think it's an interesting time. I think it's good and bad. Actually, I remember one analyst, I can't remember who it was, had a quote that said, the good news for Adobe is that they've acquired e-commerce and they have Magento. And the bad news is they only have Magento, because now it's going to be tough to partner with all the diverse e-commerce players that will now be their competitors. So we like our opening positioning for that, our position where we really are integrating with best of breed. So I think it remains to be seen how that will work out for them. But the GitHub one is really interesting too. Both Magento and GitHub are open source platforms, just like we are. And I think it's really a validation of the open source movement that you're seeing so many companies embrace open source, create successful commercial models, and then capitalize on that.
Absolutely. So in a year where experiences is a big buzzword and all the major players are using the word experiences, so far this year I've heard Microsoft, IBM and Adobe all use experiences on stage. So how do you see a combination of customer expectations and technology actually reshaping our future? Yeah,
I think that the biggest thing around customer expectations in technology is the whole privacy movement. And, you've got personalization and privacy coming at each other from two different directions. And of course, there's GDPR in the EU, and there are similar privacy movements all around the world. And, there's a question about how far do you deploy technology to personalize. Customers want, I think, a personalized experience, but they also want privacy. And, we're running into this conflict. Companies have to decide, are we getting too creepy with our personalization? And, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, because in order to deliver high-quality personalized experiences, you need to collect a lot of data, and obviously there's good and bad to that.
So what's next for you guys at Acquia there? Is there anything else that you can share with me today?
Well, like I said, we're going to be really aggressive and expanding our technology and innovating. So that's the big thing that we're focused on, is hiring aggressively, expanding. I think you can expect some interesting announcements from us in the future. Obviously, I can't talk about everything that we're going to do strategically, but we're looking to acquire companies in the space, and just really being very aggressive about adding the kind of capabilities that our customers expect from a leader in the space.
Now, you do have vast experience in the tech industry, so I've got a question I must ask for other people listening out there. Is there a piece of advice that you'd like to give a current or aspiring leader that you could pass down to them?
I think as I look back on my career, if you're in an early stage company that's trying to take care of a really interesting market opportunity, I would say focus. Many of these market opportunities, especially the way tech is evolving, can be really huge. But if you can just do a really important piece of that value proposition, and you can be the best at it, it's a great way to create value for your company, and you can expand after you get one, move to the other. And I think diluting your efforts across too many things, is a worse way to play it than to really focus on being the best at something.
Excellent advice. Well, before I let you go, could I just ask that you remind the listeners of where they can find you online, and also contact a member of your team if they have any questions or just want to carry on that conversation we started today?
Yeah, the best way to connect with us is at www.acquia.com, and you can see actually a website that's built on our platform, and you'll find hopefully very obvious ways to engage with us on that site.
Fantastic. Now, like I said at the beginning of the show, experiences is the big buzzword of the year. But what fascinates me is how these experiences are raising the expectations of customers all over the world. And for that, businesses of all sizes need to hop on board and begin raising those expectations or meeting those expectations with digital experiences. And so I absolutely love what you're doing there, and I've got a feeling you're going to be very busy over the next few years. So a big thank you for coming on and sharing that story with me today.
Thank you, Neil. I enjoyed our conversation.
Mike has a fantastic story and a wealth of experience, and it's clear to see that he's on a mission to completely transform customer journeys with Acquia. And I think he raised a very valid point in today's episode around the pitfalls of trapping your organisation into a single vendor ecosystem, and how that could actually stifle innovation, which is really interesting for businesses listening who might be all just clamouring aboard the Adobe train right now. Because we've all seen what happens in the past when many businesses ditch their own website to set up camp on Facebook, only to realise that they were actually locked into somebody else's playground, somebody else's rules, somebody else's algorithms, not to mention the pay-to-play model that they quickly followed. So I hope you found today's episode valuable, but remember, this isn't all about me, and it isn't all about the guest either. It's also about you, the listener. So I'm going to bust through that fourth wall and ask you to add value too. So email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, or tweet me at Neil C. Hughes. I also have a bit of other news for you. I'm counting down the days to my father-son adventure in Croatia in a few weeks. So if you have any tips about that part of the world, keep them coming through too. But a big thank you for joining me today, and I hope you join me again tomorrow. It's great having you around. But until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.